Buonasera a tutti, sono le 6:15, partiamo anche se si sta ancora collegando gente, però ricordate che tutti i nostri KanBar sono registrati e sono disponibili anche on demand sia su YouTube che sul sito di GetConnected, quindi se vi collegate dopo potete comunque rivedere quello che vi siete persi. Quindi buonasera a tutti, siamo qui al 13° e ultimo KanBar per questa primavera e oggi abbiamo con noi due ospiti da Atlassian, Karima e Vlad, e parleremo di ITSM and Remote Work with Atlassian. L'agenda di oggi è questa, quindi farò una breve introduzione io, dopodiché lascerò il podio a Karima e dopo Vlad. Al termine, per chi fa piacere, possiamo aprire le cam e c'è una piccola sorpresa per tutti quanti. Questi KanBar sono organizzati da GetConnected, che è una business unit specialistica di Gruppo Euris. Gruppo Euris è un'azienda IT che ha festeggiato l'anno scorso i 30 anni di attività e ha diverse business unit che vanno a coprire diverse necessità di mercato e di business. Abbiamo quindi Euris IT, che è la nostra business unit più grande, che si occupa di custom development, application management e IT consulting, dove lavoriamo su diversi clienti in ambito assicurativo molto importanti in ambito italiano e abbiamo una forza di sviluppo che è sia locale in Italia che anche abbiamo un competence center in Slovenia. Abbiamo poi Euris Experience, che è una business unit che si occupa di tutti i digital touch point del mondo digitale, quindi un focus sul customer e shopping experience, quindi con CMS, con loyalty, con mobile app, tutto quello che servono alle aziende per entrare in contatto con i propri clienti. Abbiamo poi Euris Technology, che è la nostra azienda che si occupa di tecnologia e ICT governance. Abbiamo poi Elea, che è un nostro prodotto è un prodotto proprietario in ambito IoT e Industry 4.0 che abbiamo sviluppato e serve per gestire tutto quello che è il mondo della produzione, che si può integrare anche con, diciamo, come attività con Euris Dynamics, che è la nostra business unit che si occupa della parte Microsoft, quindi di ERP, BI e CRM. Quindi tutta la parte di ERP e di produzione può essere integrata nativamente con Elea. GetConnected, chi è? Noi siamo una business unit e ci occupiamo di trasformazione agile, quindi supportiamo le aziende nella trasformazione. Lo facciamo sia con la metodologia, quindi che sia agile, che sia DevOps, che sia ITIL o ITSM che andremo a vedere oggi, oppure che sia tutta la parte di PPM, quindi della parte alta, ne abbiamo competenze sulla metodologia, ma anche soprattutto sulla tecnologia. Abbiamo da ormai 10 anni come partner Atlassian e oltre a essere Platinum Solution Partner Enterprise siamo anche diventati da poco Marketplace Top Vendor, quindi siamo riconosciuti, anche i nostri prodotti sono riconosciuti all'interno del marketplace come prodotti comunque altamente utilizzati. Questa è un po' da dopo Pasqua il percorso che abbiamo avuto con i KanBar, quindi abbiamo avuto diverse tappe approfondendo diverse tematiche e affrontando diversi ambiti all'interno dell'azienda, quindi dai tool tecnologici a supporto dei team, ma anche come aiutare la creatività all'interno dell'azienda oppure come stimolare e allenare la flessibilità psicologica. Abbiamo poi affrontato anche il tema dello sport e dei team in ambito sportivo. Abbiamo avuto un nostro partner importante che è Mindville, che si occupa di rilascia un plugin che si chiama Insight, che serve per tutta la gestione dell'asset management e quindi anche in ambito ITSM e ITIL è molto utile. Settimana scorsa è stato un workshop sul Agile Coaching e oggi siamo qui per la 13ª puntata insieme ad Atlassian per parlare di ITSM and Remote Working. Ultima puntata perché è finito il lockdown, molte persone sono tornate in ufficio e quindi diciamo che sta un po' calando anche, diciamo, la partecipazione ogni settimana, e quindi con oggi interromperemo per l'estate per ricaricare le pile, per mettere nuovi argomenti da trattare e poi ci rivediamo a settembre. Come sempre, prima domanda, essendo un KanBar, avete tutti il vostro drink con voi? Sì, sì, abbiamo un 60% che ce l'ha e un 33% che lo sta andando a prendere. Ultimi 10 secondi. Molto bene, dai, c'è una buona maggioranza che ce l'ha, quindi va molto bene. Ultimo poll per oggi. Questo è l'ultimo KanBar. Ci rivedremo a settembre? Sarete di nuovo con noi? Qua c'è un partecipante che ha scritto vediamo cosa proponete e vedrò chi è stato, attenzione. No, sicuramente ci rivedremo a settembre, adesso avremo un format diverso, però ci saremo di nuovo anche a settembre. Quindi io dopo di questo ringrazio i miei due speaker di oggi, che sono Karima e Vlad, entrambi from Amsterdam. So I leave my screen to Karima, so you can share.
Sounds good. I can share. It says host disabled attendee screen.
Oh, sorry. So let me try now.
Yeah, now it works.
Okay, perfect. So.
Great. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you very much. Hi, everyone. My name is Karima. I'm a solutions engineer at Atlassian. What do I do? Every day I work with companies to help them better understand how they can leverage the Atlassian solutions to improve their practices around ITSM, but also around DevOps and Agile project management. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Atlassian's approach to service management, and in particular on how ITSM is evolving for high velocity teams and what you can do to improve some of your ITSM practices. In order to understand how Atlassian approaches ITSM, we need to first think about the businesses and the challenges that they are facing today. A lot of enterprises are looking to solve many existential problems, and we see common business trends around, among our customer base. Some of the trends are like, how can they stay competitive in today's world, and how can they future-proof their business? But also companies are always looking to reinvent and transform themselves. I think we've all heard about digital transformation. It's about lean innovation through focus on your core competencies and productivity. Actually, 96% of all CIOs are investing in a digital transformation initiative right now. And the last part here, the last challenge, how can we grow and build products and services that help companies grow in an environment that's always moving and changing? Let's have a look at these companies here. I know most of them are American companies, but maybe you will recognize some of them. What these companies all have in common is that they were all on the Fortune 500 list in 1955. But the harsh truth is also that 88 of those Fortune 500 companies from 1955, they no longer exist now because they couldn't keep up with the change. The world is always changing, always evolving. Every company needs to go through a transformation, and that transformation really impacts how teams work, and it opens new ways of working as well. So the question is really, how can you keep pace with the change? And how can you make sure that you future-proof your business? At Atlassian, we believe that future progress is always dependent on how well your teams work together. So it's dependent also on the alignment between teams. So not just the team itself, but the alignment across different teams. So in order for companies to be competitive and to accelerate growth and to transform digitally, they need to improve how their employees work together. And teamwork is really hard. Like you see this, diagram here, like there's lots of ideas and concepts and plans and deadlines and dependencies. And the larger the organization gets, the more complex it gets as well. At Atlassian, our mission is to unleash the potential of every team, no matter its size or function or location. And when people work from home, like we're all doing now, it's even more important to focus on how we can improve how the teams work together to unleash their full potential. With everything we do at Atlassian, teams are really at the center of our mission. And we spend a lot of time learning about the teams and innovating around how the teams work together. And many times the conversations tend to go right to the technology, the products. But this approach doesn't really help us understand what the teams actually need to help them transform the way they work. So when we think about teams, we want to consider three important aspects. We first consider the people that work in teams and the culture that they have. And then we need to consider how the teams work and really the practices that they follow. And then that leads us to the tools and the products that fit the way that the teams work and not the other way around. So today I want to talk about IT teams and share with you how we are helping them transform the way that they work. For the first aspect I just mentioned, culture, we created the Atlassian Team Playbook. It's a collection of everything that we learned how to make teams more productive. Over 5,000 Atlassian employees are using the playbook worldwide, and we have now also shared it for external use. So you can use the health monitor to evaluate and improve your team performance. You can also do self-guided workshops and game plans to kind of uncover the weaknesses in your team and see where there's chances for improvement. And we have like more than 40 plays, and we always keep adding more to make sure that we can help with the cultural aspect. Yeah, we can't talk about ITSM without talking about ITIL for a minute. When it comes to IT support practices, ITIL is the #1 standard that has been adopted by IT teams worldwide. Last year, there was a major release by Axelos to ITIL. ITIL 4 is a new framework, or is an updated framework. It introduces a more holistic approach to service management, and it focuses more on the end-to-end service management from demand to value. And here it's really the idea to introduce a more flexible approach and moving away from set processes to practices, so that they can more easily be adapted by the organizations and their needs. And then it also introduces new ways to integrate lean and agile and DevOps practices and principles into ITSM. We work closely with IT teams, and we learn a lot about the way that they work. So we have partnered with Axelos to publish a guide that provides a good introduction to this update, and also outlines what practices a high velocity IT organization might want to adopt. So it's a little bit about what we're talking today, but in the form of a white paper. So I definitely recommend downloading it and kind of having a discussion within your team to see what you can do to improve some of the processes that or practices that you currently have. Cool. So we've moved from following processes to kind of introducing the idea of practices in a more strategic context. And ITIL offers guidance on 32 practices. That's quite a lot, and it can be a bit overwhelming at the beginning. But ITIL 4 also recommends that IT organizations just start where they are. Learn what you're doing right now, adapt and grow from wherever you are. And based on our experience working with a lot of different teams, we found the best performing IT teams use these 8 practices that we see outlined here. And we're kind of going to dive into some of these today. So to show you how we approach ITSM, we can talk about some practices that we've learned from customers who have adopted Atlassian for their ITSM solution needs. So the first is around delivering high quality service that's valuable to the organization, so namely service request management. The second helps with detecting and resolving and learning from incidents, so incident management. And the third is around streamlining and automating change. without compromising the stability of the business service. So this is where we will take a closer look at the practice of change control. Let's start with how high velocity teams deliver great service through knowledge, automation, and learning, and how our product supports how successful teams work. So most of you probably know, like, a key concept from lean and agile ways of working is the shift towards the left. And this concept means that with a tiered support organization, we can begin to shift the ability to deliver value to the end user much faster. So it will take less time. And this is something that can be done with knowledge and automation. And at the same time, when we can deliver that value to the end user faster, we can also increase our agility and focus more on the learning. We have more time to ask questions that help us unlock new ways of delivering greater value to users, because more is being automated. I just mentioned knowledge. So what does knowledge mean? Knowledge is really key to successfully delivering valuable services. And what's important here is that it's easy for the customer to use and that they can actually find the questions that they're looking for. So here you can see a screenshot of the Jira Service Desk help portal. Jira Service Desk is Atlassian's ITSM solution. And it has a self-service capability with integrated knowledge to help users go in here. They can type in what they're looking for, and they either find some information on it to help resolve their request straight away, or they're routed to the right team to file a service request. And it's not just important that it's easy for customers to search it and find their answers, but it's also important for us to make it easy for the IT teams to set up such a portal and to build out a service request catalog and a portal with frequently answered questions or how-to articles or troubleshooting articles. And we see that organizations who adopt something like Jira Service Desk and build out their help portal, they're seeing a significant decrease in incoming requests. So therefore, they have more time to focus on other things. And one additional benefit of this is that it doesn't just help IT teams scale, but it's also adopted by other parts of the organization, as you can see here. Like I said, knowledge is really one of the most valuable assets, and it's very instrumental to help teams make better and faster decisions. And I'm not just talking about the knowledge on the external side that we're making available to the users, but also the internal knowledge that our teams are using to do their work. I think it's a big pain point for a lot of teams that internal knowledge is often spread out in so many different sources, like emails, chat logs, queues, some meeting notes, maybe also it's just in the head of some employees or maybe in the head of employees that have already left the company. So I think my point here is really that it's important to aggregate the knowledge that you have in a single repository to share that knowledge and create a knowledge-centric culture within your team. And we see a lot of companies adapt a tool like Confluence to create that single source of truth to aggregate their knowledge. So if we think about what actionable advice you can take away from this section is there are three important things to foster a knowledge-centric culture within your teams. The first is to invest in tools that make it easy to create and grow internal and external knowledge. The second is to encourage the creation of knowledge-based articles, for example, through rewards, and then also introducing peer reviews so that you can make sure that the content that's being published is actually the right content. And then the last one is around leveraging metrics to understand how your knowledge is being used, like which knowledge-based articles are really useful and used a lot, and where do we maybe get a lot of requests where we can create some new knowledge to make sure that we can serve our customers better. Now, this was the knowledge part. Let's talk a little bit about automation in the context of service request management. So part of shifting left is automating repetitive actions so you save yourself some time. During the last summit, the remote summit that we had, we announced our enhanced automation engine, which gives you access to an additional of 28 out-of-the-box rules so you can automate quickly and more precisely without needing a lot of technical expertise. So you can use simple when, if, then logic to trigger any type of actions based on criteria that you choose. And you can, for example, automate manual tasks like assigning a ticket or replying to a customer or creating subtasks for a more complex request. And one big benefit here is also that you can automate tasks that span among development and operations. So like when you have a Jira Service Desk incident or problem ticket that is related to a software update within Jira software, we can close that incident and problem ticket automatically as soon as the issue in Jira software is resolved. So really creating that automation across teams. There's actually a study from McKinsey that shows that 45% of work activities can be automated. And that results in $2 trillion of savings in annual wages because of that time saving. And now imagine what you could do in terms of automating your activities. And what could that mean for your team and how it operates? Like what can you do with that new free time? And what does it actually mean for the business in general if you're able to automate? Over 60% of Jira Service Desk customers, they rely on automation. Some customers use over 2 million automation rules per month. So here are actually some ideas for how you can include automation into your current IT support practices. The first is really reviewing past requests and thinking about where are there areas where we can automate. And then you can start by looking at the most common requests that you get, or maybe requests that need additional attention, or requests where you need to coordinate across multiple teams in Jira. And lastly, this is also something we mentioned earlier, start where you are, start small, learn from your results, and then grow onto that success. Cool. That was the part of service request management. Let's move to another practice, incident management. ITIL 4 defines an incident as an unplanned interruption. We live in a world where our services are always on. So our incident response teams need new ways to deal with unplanned interruptions across these 4 stages here. So in this part of the presentation, I want to share some ways of how high velocity IT teams improve the way they respond to, collaborate, and solve major incidents. I think one question that all IT teams ask themselves is how ready are we to respond to a major incident? And this is really a top priority for most teams. Atlassian helps at every stage of the incident management process. So of course, it's always about lowering mean time to recovery, but we also want to help the collaboration during the incident investigation. And then an often overlooked part here is the process of finding the root cause to prevent future outages. Like what can we do to streamline those processes? So the first step in responding to an incident is actually knowing that there is an incident and being alerted about it. It's important that users and employees have a way to easily report incidents when they run into an issue. And this is something they can do with Jira Service Desk with the same help portal that we saw in the beginning. As an agent, when those incident reports come in, I want to quickly identify the issue and escalate it if needed. And there is automation in Jira Service Desk that automatically puts incidents into queues and prioritizes them so that the right team can work on it and see it. And then we can even take it a step further and say, if a specific incident fulfills some type of criteria, we will escalate it straight on to the on-call team to not lose any time. But if further investigation is needed, the agent will look at the ticket and they have different resources for finding them or for helping them to do their research. They have, of course, the information on the ticket, but they also have the internal knowledge base where they can maybe find an incident run book to help them troubleshoot the issue. And then they can also review the status of the affected services and related bugs. And that can really, like, having all this information and this access can really drastically decrease the response time. And then once you figured out this needs to be escalated, just with the click of one button, you can escalate it to the right team. Now, once the incident has been reported, what happens now? Many high velocity teams use Ops Genie as their incident management platform. It gives them a way to operate their always on services. They can plan for service interruptions, disruptions, and they can stay in control during incidents. There are over 200 integration within Ops Genie, and Ops Genie has a very flexible rules engine that allows you to centralize alerts and decide which alerts should be tracked and which should be turned into incidents. And then it allows you to easily notify the right team through the on-call schedules. And then the response team can collaborate on an incident right within Ops Genie so they can quickly take action. And the last part here is the post-incident reports and the analytics. Here is where it's important to help find ways to improve your team practices based on the response to certain incidents. And that's a very important point. So I want to talk about it a little bit more. It's important because what we see is that 70% of PIRs are never ever looked at again because they're kept in places like emails or chat threads or document folders where they are never looked at again. Then if we have any type of actions that we want to perform based on our PIRs, they will never get done. And that will cause the service outage of possibly happening again. So we do highly recommend standardizing the PIRs in a collaboration tool like Confluence. It helps you maximize your learnings from the past incidents and improve your services. And then most importantly, reduce the likelihood of any type of incidents occurring again. One thing to always keep in mind with PIRs is to keep them blameless and focus on improving your team health and the cross-functional collaboration. Let's take a look at what the PIR could look like. So in Confluence, you have a great place to capture those PIRs from a major outage. You can document what led up to the incident, default and impact, the incident timeline here to help understand how the team responded. And of course, it should always have the root cause and any of the corrective actions as well. And with the corrective actions in particular, you also have the ability to link any action items that are related to make sure that everybody knows what's going on and what has to be done. So what are some things that you can do to improve major incident response? Like what can you do to lower your MTTR and streamline those processes? We recommend establishing an incident playbook for your team. And here's actually a list of things that this type of playbook could include. I'm not going to read through all of them, but I want to highlight again that we do have a white paper on modern incident management for IT operations, which you can download from our website. But really having this can really help your team get better and faster at responding to incidents. Cool. The last practice I want to talk about is change. Infrastructure is always changing and evolving, and we need to make sure that we keep always on services actually on when making a change, and that can be quite the challenge. So let's see what high velocity teams are doing to automating standard changes and speeding up and reducing the complexity of normal changes. With ITIL 4, change enablement has adopted towards a more balanced approach. It's now focused on delivering value faster, while at the same time reducing the risk of breaking things in production. And we want to encourage teams to actually take a step back and look how the organization handles the flow of the infrastructure changes. What we see among high-performing teams is that they focus on automating low-risk standard changes and breaking down normal changes into small units of work. And what we also see is kind of a move away from change advisory boards towards a more collaborative peer review and decentralizing change approval to really speed up the process. There's really an opportunity for teams to increase their productivity and decrease the time it takes for a change to deploy through automation. We have our risk assessment engine, which is powered by automation for Jira, that can quickly score the risk and determine whether it's a low risk change that can be auto-approved and deployed, or whether it's a high risk change that requires further approval. And within Jira Service Desk, teams can streamline the change control practice for standard changes through automation, again, using when, if, and then statements. And there's no coding necessary. This example here highlights how one of our European customers automated 70% of their standard changes when they switched from their legacy ITSM tool to Jira Service Desk as part of their digital transformation initiative. And by automating those standard changes, IT teams can focus more on the normal change work in their queue. And that's a very important part as well. For the normal changes that cannot be automated, it's very important to break them down and make the process of approving and implementing those changes faster through collaborative planning. Here's an example of a major upgrade that's documented using a standard change template in Confluence. Many IT teams, they track the data in Word or Excel documents, which does not really support collaboration that well. And so if teams move to Confluence, it makes it easier for those teams and developers to plan the changes together. And it also creates visibility across the entire organization and also helps the change advisory board to review whether an implementation should be approved or not. So with regards to change management, I think it's important to understand that it does not always have to be a very heavy process, as it is still in many organizations. A lot of high velocity teams are moving away from the legacy approaches. ITIL 4 even considers decentralizing your change authority into business stakeholders or peer levels. So instead of using a separate committee, just build change control into your normal workflow with the relevant stakeholders, and maybe retiring your change approval board altogether. And the other big piece of advice for you to take away here is centralizing your change documentation in a tool like Confluence to increase visibility across your team and help with the collaboration part. Yeah, I think there's a lot of many other practices that we could talk about today. But what it always boils down to is to focus your teams around culture, practices, and products, and to encourage collaboration and team alignment at every step that you take. So to wrap it up, we're very passionate about creating products and practices and opening up work for all teams. We believe that IT has 3 fundamental practices that are part of their mission, and we build our products around those practices. So we have the delivery part where we're delivering technology, whether it's building it or buying it. Here it's important to make sure that it meets the requirements of the businesses and then successfully roll it out for adoption. This is done with a lot of collaboration with the development team. Then IT needs to run the technologies. They need to ensure that things are operating smoothly, and if any incidents come up, they need to have a plan for how to handle those disruptions. And then we also need to provide support, whether it's support for when things go wrong or answering questions or handling any type of other requests and technology. This will be the 3rd practice. And as you can see, from a product standpoint, there are different tools to support the various practices, like Jira Software, Bitbucket, Opsgenie, or Status Page. But Jira Service Desk is really at the center of it. It's the center of our approach to service management. And it doesn't matter for which team. It's for IT teams, but also for dev teams and for business teams. We see that a lot of enterprise organizations, for them, it becomes a platform that unifies and opens up work across the organization, along with Confluence. So yeah, to close the conversation now, I think I would like to recommend another white paper. This is the more, it's a guide that covers the basics of everything that you need to know about ITSM with Atlassian across the IT delivery, operations, and support. And you can learn about best practices and really improve your team's performance, efficiency, and collaboration in a more holistic approach. That's it from my side. Happy to answer any questions now or later.
Yeah, I think that we'll do later. Se avete domande potete scrivere in Q&A, così dopo rispondiamo. Ora lascio la parola a Vlad per Atlassian Remote Work e poi ci vediamo a 10 minuti alle 7 di nuovo qua. Prego Vlad.
D'accordo, grazie, buonasera a tutti, è un piacere partecipare di questo evento, soprattutto essendo l'ultimo evento della primavera, quindi grazie al team di GetConnected, auguri per questa iniziativa favolosa, fenomenale, che mi è piaciuto molto. Allora, ho preparato una piccola, veloce presentazione solo per fare una chiacchiera sul remote work di Atlassian, perché prima di questa presentazione mi chiedeva Simone come facciamo, come affrontiamo noi presso Atlassian queste sfide che questa crisi ha portato con noi di lavorare remote, e quindi ho preparato qualche esempio di come facciamo, non è niente di formale, ma solo per darvi un'idea di come facciamo. Innanzitutto mi presento per quelli che non mi conoscono: Vladimir Cavalcanti, sì, un cognome italiano, ma invece come avete già ascoltato dal mio accento, sono brasiliano, quindi la musica brasiliana che ha scelto Simone era al principio perfetto. Grazie per quello. Allora, sono già da 8 anni con Atlassian, più di 8 anni, come channel manager, quindi il mio lavoro è sviluppare i mercati locali di Sud Europa. Italia è un mercato chiave per noi, strategico, molto importante. Lavoriamo con partners come GetConnected che complementano la nostra offerta. Quindi, velocemente per presentare Atlassian, immagino che quasi tutti conoscete già Atlassian. Come diceva Karima, abbiamo una mission che è rilasciare il potenziale di ogni team, non solamente quelli sviluppatori di software, ma ci pensiamo anche IT, il team di IT ovviamente, ma anche di finanze, di HR, di marketing, insomma tutti quelli che hanno bisogno di essere più produttivi, più collaborativi e anche più felici nel lavoro. Quindi quello per noi è molto importante. Abbiamo questi prodotti che pensavano in quello. Allora, il tema di questa chiacchiera: in questi ultimi mesi il mondo ha cambiato, come sappiamo già, e dobbiamo reinventare la nostra maniera di lavorare. Anche per quei paesi dove cominciano già a essere più aperti, dove la gente può andare in ufficio già piano piano, crediamo che questa crisi ha cambiato fondamentalmente la nostra maniera di lavorare, quindi dobbiamo essere più creativi, dobbiamo essere ancora più produttivi, no? E dobbiamo essere immaginativi per trovare maniere di lavorare e essere felici anche con quello che facciamo. Quindi Atlassian c'è questa preoccupazione all'interno di Atlassian, ma anche per i nostri clienti. Prima di darvi l'esempio che diceva, voglio raccontarvi un piccolo aneddoto che è successo da me quando ho cominciato con Atlassian. Era l'anno 2012 e sono andato in ufficio di San Francisco per un training per 3 settimane fuori casa. Quindi un ufficio favoloso, molto bello, super moderno e tutto quello, ma c'era la comunicazione da casa con la famiglia. Con mia moglie parlavo ogni giorno e con i bambini anche, attraverso ovviamente in quella data non mi ricordo se era FaceTime o WhatsApp, video call, insomma. Quindi una di quelle giornate mia moglie mi diceva che il nostro figlio Matteo, di 4 anni, era svegliato alla notte con un incubo. E in questo incubo, questo sogno malo, aveva detto che sognava che il suo padre, io, non era più che un'immagine. Quindi nella testa di un bambino quella relazione remota attraverso una chiamata di video era impattante. Quindi per lui suo papà già non c'era, era un'immagine. Quindi sono tornato a casa, tutto bene, tutto quello, ma questo piccolo incidente è sempre stato in testa mia, perché era molto interessante e soprattutto adesso per noi con questa situazione di lavorare da casa, di fare tante comunicazioni video, come impatta quello a noi adulti, noi già con questo? Io ho cercato di trovare una risposta per quello. Io ho trovato questo articolo che vi raccomando da leggere dalla BBC, che si chiama The Reason Soon Calls Drain Your Energy. In quell'articolo dicono una cosa molto interessante, che il video call, la chiamata di video, ricorda a noi le persone che abbiamo perso temporalmente. Sì, temporalmente, ma non siamo più in contatto fisico, non siamo più subconscientemente abbiamo l'impressione che queste persone non ci sono più. Quindi e quello fa che queste video calls, video chat e tutte le comunicazioni siano estenuanti. E è vero, perché dobbiamo capire l'espressione faziale, l'espressione di tutti i nostri interlocutori e non sappiamo se è contento, se ha capito il messaggio, se è arrabbiato, se è stanco o quello. Quindi quello prende tanta energia. E c'è anche un altro ragionamento, questo di Dominic Price, un collega di Atlassian, che è un work futurist, che fa dei blogs e presentazioni favolosi, che diceva una cosa anche, che non lavoriamo da casa, siamo a casa lavorando. È una differenza sottile ma importante, perché non eravamo preparati per questo cambio così veloce, così radicale. E questo dobbiamo capire le esigenze, le sfide, la difficoltà della gente che lavora in casa per essere produttivi, come diceva. Quindi noi da Atlassian abbiamo sempre creduto che siamo in grado di offrire quello, perché nel nostro ADN abbiamo sempre questa cultura di lavoro remote, soprattutto dopo l'acquisizione di Trello, per esempio, perché con il team di Trello loro hanno sempre lavorato in remote. Non c'era un ufficio Trello, ma praticamente nessuno lavorava dall'ufficio. Erano tutti remote in varie città nel mondo. Quindi abbiamo sviluppato ancora di più questo. E come diceva Karima, noi abbiamo queste tre aree, no? di prodotti, la cultura e le pratiche. I prodotti, crediamo che abbiamo dei prodotti perfetti per questa situazione di lavoro remote, per collaborazioni, per essere più produttivi. Abbiamo tutti i nostri prodotti, Confluence, Gira Service Desk e tutti quelli. La cultura c'era, come dicevo, c'era già una cultura molto aperta, avevamo bisogno di lavorare da casa, era sempre possibile. E invece le pratiche specificamente per questa situazione ci mancava un poco. Abbiamo dovuto imparare e adattare e sviluppare altre pratiche, perché alla fine parliamo di gente, no? E per esempio se abbiamo questi eventi, queste riunioni lunghi, perché sono importanti al fine del quarto, al fine dei mesi, al fine dell'anno fiscale, dobbiamo essere tutti insieme, ma dobbiamo anche prendere qualche minuto per celebrare, per prendere una bevuta, qualcosa, e fare un toast per celebrare questo momento di essere insieme. Abbiamo imparato tanto in queste riunioni e queste sono quattro suggerimenti che possiamo fare perché abbiamo imparato e implementato da noi. Una è mantenere le presentazioni, le riunioni brevi, quindi keep it snappy significa in questo caso essere breve su obiettivo e essere corto, il più corto possibile. Dopo utilizzare questa magnifica feature di Zoom che è fare un breakout, così possiamo dividere il team in piccoli team per discutere un topic, per esempio, e dopo rientriamo tutti e presentiamo le conclusioni di quel topic, per esempio. Essere in grado di offrire a tutti la possibilità di essere presenti. Quindi ci sono spesso quelli più introverti che non partecipano, ma dare almeno l'opportunità di partecipare. Il prendere dei breaks. Quindi quello è molto importante. Se abbiamo una riunione di 4 ore, si deve prendere un break ad ogni ora per ricaricare le batterie. No? E anche un'altra sfida che abbiamo identificato è quella del spazio di lavoro. Non tutti hanno uno spazio adeguato, perché ancora una volta è stato un cambiamento molto veloce, molto radicale, molto impattante. Quindi, ma abbiamo sempre fatto un lavoro di comunicazione, di suggerimenti, di blog, di video, di riunioni per offrire qualche idea, qualche suggerimento di come fare per tornare il tuo workspace un po' più piacevole, un po' più produttivo, un po' più bello, un po' più carino. Quindi abbiamo utilizzato ovviamente nostra Confluence per promuovere questa pagina, per condividere le fotografie, descrizioni di come è il nostro proprio spazio di lavoro. E condivido qui qualche idea con voi per vedere questo che abbiamo fatto. Per esempio questo è un piccolo cupboard, no? che ha adattato al suo lavoro, bellissimo, con una decorazione molto bella. Dopo c'era un fanatico della Star Wars che ha fatto tutto uno spazio dedicato a Star Wars, impressionante, incredibile. Questo è stato creativo, no? Non ho un standing desk, ma posso adattare e fare qualcosa. Creatività è stupenda. Ed altri che hanno fatto veramente un lavoro di architettura per alzare sul laptop su questo. E c'erano anche quelli che non hanno trovato uno spazio tranquillo a casa, eccetto questo. Quindi tutti un po' adattandosi al nuovo mondo. E parlando dei tools, no? Quello è un po' la pratica, ma parlando dei tools, ovviamente, come sapete, abbiamo tanti tools, ma il più importante in questa situazione, in questa situazione di lavorare insieme, essere più produttivi, il remote, utilizziamo molto il Trello, Confluence ovviamente, ma anche Gire Service Desk, ma fondamentalmente Confluence, Zoom, come dicevo, soprattutto per quella feature dei breakouts, e Slack. Rimaniamo molto dipendenti di Slack per comunicarsi velocemente, quello. Ma quello è solo un esempio, ci sono tanti altri tool che utilizziamo all'interno di Atlassian per promuovere il remote work. Allora, praticamente per finire, dire che siamo in questo insieme, dobbiamo collaborare tra noi, vogliamo avere un'azienda aperta e comunicarsi con noi, ma anche con i nostri clienti, con i nostri fornitori, perché è una situazione molto speciale, è una situazione anche unica per noi per imparare, per adattarsi, per trasformare un poco, abbastanza direi, la maniera di lavorare. E ancora una volta la nostra missione, perché alla fine e al cabo cosa vogliamo? Vogliamo che non siamo semplicemente un'immagine, vogliamo essere umani in questa missione. Allora, grazie per il vostro tempo, era solo per darvi un po' un'idea della cultura di Atlassian e sono disponibile per questions.
Grazie Vlad. Se avete delle domande potete scriverle. Intanto, essendo l'ultimo, chi vuole accendere la cam adesso lo può fare. Vi sto promuovendo tutti come panelist, visto che è l'ultimo KanBar. Chi ha delle domande le può fare, dei dubbi, chi vuole chiedere qualcosa. Karima e Vlad sono qui con noi. Tutti timidi.
Ciao Vlad, hi Karima. That's my drink.
Enjoy it. I like your view.
Thank you. I like yours.
Yeah, Amsterdam. So let me then ask a question to you guys. What's the situation there right now in Italy? Are you slowly going back to the office? What is the overall culture and expectations in terms of people working remotely, still accepted?
What office?
Okay, because I heard Simone asking earlier that that people are slowly going back to the office. So
true. In several, there are now people like slowly starting again to go to the offices, to go having drink to the restaurants. So life, it's, let's say, back to normal, the new normal, I would say. Since we are in summer now, the schools are closed now. So there's a great debate about what's going to happen in September when they reopen. They will reopen. Of course, the buildings in the schools are not built for this kind of space between students. So there's a big debate of what to do. So they should go in turns, for example. So after the class in the morning and after the class in the afternoon, which means that you have double shift.
But do you think this crisis has changed the approach on remote work that people are now?
Well, yes, there are. Yeah, I would say that there are several big companies that maybe they were not approaching remote work, for example, like retail or in terms of food distribution. They were not really keen of having even people that are in the office to work remotely. And nowadays they're basically thinking, okay, let's go remote. Because we have seen that this 3 months, basically, we were able to work also remotely without loss of efficiency. Most of the time, people were even more efficient. But I would say that you can focus more first, and then you spend more time working, because instead of 8 hours. You don't have the 2 hours going back and forth. And so how do you spend these 2 hours? Usually you spend working. So there's 2 extra hours bonus sitting at the desk. Or in the bathroom, like the picture shows. So, but yeah, I think that if we survive next phase in October, November, when the flu will start again, then we're going to be safe. Otherwise, we're going to have another lockdown.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
Allora, avete tutti la possibilità di aprire la cam. Se volete fare un saluto, se no adesso avete delle domande? Question for Vlad and Karima. By the way, al momento condivido lo schermo.
sky, 'cause you're a sky full of stars. I'm gonna give you my heart, 'cause you're a sky, 'cause you're a sky full of stars. 'Cause you light up the path. I don't care, go on and tear me apart. I don't care if you do. Cause in the sky, 'cause in the sky full of stars, I think I saw you. You're a sky full of stars. I wanna die in your arms. Cause you get lighter the more it gets dark. I'm gonna give you my heart. I don't care, go on and tear me apart. I don't care if you do.
Fantastico.
Bellissimo.
Quindi era un po' la chiusura con le 0 patenti ritirate,
Era
successore.
una ciliegina.
Quindi avete qualche domanda, qualche curiosità fra Vlad, Karima, tutti timidi?
I have a question about to Karima, if anybody else has one. For the automation, your risk engine that determines if the change was a low risk was really interesting to say how to, you can automate this kind of thing. So how the secret sauce to calculate the risk? What was the ingredient?
I do think the ingredients here really depend on what you want to make them. So it is tied to automation in Jira. So if you've worked with automation in Jira before, you set rules to say what type of changes will be low risk changes. And based on the rule that you set, it will be auto-approved. And while a change is being auto-approved and then directly deployed in platforms like Bitbucket, the IT team still has a list of all those changes that were auto-approved to go in and see if everything went well and to always go back and roll back any changes that might have caused issues. So it really well connects the development part with the IT operations part.
Yeah, I understood the process. I would say that sometimes is pretty hard, to define some strict rule to evaluate the risk. So I wanted to know if there was any specific haha moment. So, oh yeah, we need to do that because it makes things easier. I know that with automation for Jira you can do a hell of a lot of things, but there's any specific things that help them to make the flow really going forward.
I'm not quite sure how to answer it, but yeah, definitely something I could look into and send some additional information over. But in general, we want to keep it flexible for the people that work with it, because a standard change for you might be a lot different than a standard change for someone else. So just having the ability to customize it in a way that you need using automation for Jira, using those automation rules is the secret sauce, basically.
Okay, thank you.
Altre domande? Dubbi? Question?
Mm-hmm. I have another one, but I don't want to be the only one.
Go. If you have it, go ahead.
So that's a very bad question. So I don't want to make any trouble out of you, but so there's a lot of competition in ITSM software tools, and sometimes even we talk with customers, we compete with the other tools that are specific for ITSM. While Magic Quadrant, Gartner, on the quadrant in the top right, and Jira is not there, because Jira is in another kind of quadrant. Do you see that is gonna be a solution, or like some market understanding that Jira can do what others, more recognized ITSM solutions do, as well as the others, and sometimes even better? Because I know the answer from my point of view is yes, of course. But since we don't have this kind of feedback from market for Gartner or stuff like that, you see any things moving forward in that direction?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're definitely investing heavily into ITSM this year, and in the coming years, you will see some interesting changes towards the second half of this year for sure, that I can't talk about right now, but you'll see them coming. And one thing to mention, you talked about Gartner. I don't know if you've also looked at the Forrester wave. There's a Forrester wave in terms of enterprise service management, and while we're not all the way in the top right, we're definitely on there. And the important part to recognize here is that 2 years ago, we weren't on it at all. But because we've been growing our presence in the market, we have made it on there. And Jira Service Desk is actually one of our solutions that is growing the most quickly. And we will continue to go with that and also find our differentiation in the marketplace. I think a lot of traditional ITSM tool give you a tool that's everything in one, and you just have to buy everything in one, whereas we want to be a bit more flexible. And like I said, we want to build tools around the practices of teams. So understand, what do teams actually need? Do all teams need the same? Or do we have options to break things down with, for example, marketplace apps that we say we build like a basic service management tool, and then companies can add on marketplace apps in order to customize it in a way that it makes sense for them and their practices that they're operating in. Does this answer your question?
Yeah, yes, it does. Thank you.
Nessun altro domande? Tutti timidi? Andiamo a cena e ci vediamo a settembre? Ok. Riceverete tutti, chiedo a Karima e Vlad if you can send me the PDF of your presentation, so I will attach to the follow-up email. Grazie a tutti. Buona serata.
Good evening.
Grazie.
Buona serata a tutti, grazie.
Ciao Vlad.
Thank you.
Ciao ciao.
Bye.